Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Renee. For those of you guys that are new, hello and welcome to our channel. Today's video is going to be 5 habits to create before 2020. I think if you take these 5 habits throughout the last 2 months of the year, you will definitely change your life or start a better life starting 2020. These are some things that I recently have started incorporating into my routine, and I feel like a better person. I feel more wise, I feel more productive and motivated, and it's just an all-around good 5 habits that I put into my routine that I feel like would be of benefit to you. So the first tip that we have is to challenge your inner critic. This is something that I've been reading up on in this book that has been completely life-changing. It's called How to Be Yourself, and it is probably one of the best books I've ever read. It is so beneficial if you ever have that inner critic in your head, or that negative voice inside of your head, that thing that isn't pushing you to be the best possible you. It has helped me tremendously with my anxiety. I think this book can also be really helpful if you don't have anxiety, just facing your fears or doing things that scare you and rising above your inner critic. We all have that negative voice inside of our heads that we say mean things to ourselves, or we put ourselves down, or we just limit our potential because of what we're saying to ourselves, and that has no benefit at all. She gives the example of swimmers. If there's a kid that is learning how to swim and there's one coach telling a kid, "You suck, this is so embarrassing, everyone's looking at you, never come back to the pool, you're never going to be a good swimmer," or there's a coach that's motivating the child but also giving it in a constructive way. "You've been improving, you've been practicing, like you're doing so much better than when you started, maybe next time you can do this instead of this." Which kid is most likely going to be the Olympian swimmer? Obviously the one with the coach that's positive and constructive in a good way. And I think that other kid that gets the coach that's like super negative to him isn't ever going to want to go back and try to swim again. And the same goes with our inner critic. Like, honestly, the way that we talk to ourselves is to protect us in some sort of way for a fear that we have, or not get in trouble or not get embarrassed, but it does nothing of value. If anything, it makes you more self-conscious, less self-confident, and just really uncomfortable. There's 3 magical questions that the author says that we can use to challenge this inner critic. In the book, she uses an example of a guy who has to give a presentation for work. So the first magical question that you're supposed to ask yourself is, how bad would that really be? If you're really nervous to give that presentation in front of your coworkers, odds are you're saying things like, "Oh my god, everyone's gonna judge me, I'm gonna flop and forget what I'm supposed to be saying, they're gonna all think I'm stupid." And all of these are really scary things, but they're momentarily uncomfortable. They're not gonna have a long-term disastrous effect on your life. Nobody is dying and nothing is coming irreversibly broken in any way. The purpose of this question is to decatastrophize the situation. Our inner critic automatically bursts into the worst case scenario. Asking yourself this magical question will put the consequence that you have in your head into perspective. This question is really beneficial for someone that has a little bit of anxiety, but for people who have a lot of anxiety, the inner critic will find a way to make this super disastrous. For example, if you're sweating through your shirt, everyone's gonna think you're an anxious freak. Or if you mess up and fumble on your presentation, your inner critic's gonna be like, "You're gonna get fired because you messed up." And yeah, those kind of are disasters. So your inner critic is like, "Haha, I got you." But then that leads to magical question number 2, which is to ask yourself, what are the odds of this actually happening? Does that one mistake from your presentation equate to you getting fired? Really? Does every single person in that room think you're an anxious freak because you're sweating a little bit? What your inner critic does is it takes these really small mishaps and creates a very large, unrealistic consequence in return. For example, something really small, you go blank during the presentation, equates to a big consequence, getting fired. Or you're sweating through your shirt, a small thing equates to everybody thinks that I'm an anxious freak and I'm not gonna have any friends and everyone's gonna hate me and no one's gonna like me and I'm gonna be alone forever. What's really gonna happen if I'm sweating through my shirt during my presentation? Maybe a coworker thinks that you're overheated and that you're hot. Maybe a coworker does think that you're anxious, feels a little bit of compassion towards you, and then moves on to counting their Weight Watchers points for the day. So like the purpose of question 1 is decatastrophizing the situation, the purpose of question number 2 is to take the edge off. Like, you're not gonna go from super anxious to not scared at all, not anxious at all, but it will dilute that overwhelming feeling, which leads to question number 3. How do I cope if something were to happen? When you have the inner critic telling you the most horrible thing in your head, it becomes your main focus. That's all you're thinking about because that's the world right now and that's what's gonna happen and that's why you're freaking out. It becomes this huge thing in your head that's the only thing in your head at this point. Let's say you fumbled on your presentation. Let's say you got fired. Now what? How do I cope? Well, I'm gonna have to tighten my budget a little bit. I'm gonna have to look for jobs, apply for jobs, maybe get a new interview suit, start interviewing, maybe find a job within a month or two. Okay. You coped. Worst case scenario, you figured it out. Odds are, if life throws anything at you, you are more than able to handle whatever that situation is. Honestly, people probably have before, and they've probably dealt with a lot worse, and they've overcome it. So your inner critic can say all those negative things, but let's say it really happens. You're going to survive. You're gonna get through it. So why are you freaking out? It may be a little bit hard, but it's not the end of the world. Question 1, you decatastrophize the situation. Question 2, you took the edge off. And question number 3, you made the situation a lot less overwhelming than it was in your head. The second habit to create for 2020 is to ground yourself. This is something that I recently started doing because I do have a lot of YouTube success. I work online. Social media is a whole world in itself that I feel like a lot of people get really into in a very negative, materialistic way. And I don't like being a part of that, even though I am a part of it in some way. I love having a YouTube channel. I love having a community online, but it comes with a lot of negative things such as materialism, trying to keep up with the trends, showing off stuff, money, people's judgment. As much as it is a good world, it's also a very negative world for me. So in order to ground myself, I've been wanting to look for a job, and I've done some research. I've grounded myself. I want to find a job that I can focus on and have a passion towards, at the same time doing YouTube, but YouTube more as a hobby rather than something that I'm relying on to give me some sort of income. So the first thing that I did in order to ground myself is I unfollowed everyone except for friends and family on Instagram. That's just something I personally like to do. It may not be what's best for you. You might get inspiration from the people that you follow, but I tend to compare myself a lot, which is really negative and not healthy for me. So doing that has really helped me in terms of like living an equal amount online as I do offline. I'm also going to be making a big move coming the new year. That'll give me a lot of new inspiration and things to play with in terms of my creativity and finding more about myself and growing as a person rather than trying to outbeat myself where I am right now, if that makes sense. Because right now I feel like I'm at a standstill. I'm not getting inspired or motivated by my environment, so doing this will really help ground me and push me to be a little bit uncomfortable, but at the same time grow as a person. And the third thing is that I really want to find a job. The job situation is kind of on a standstill because I have a lot coming up in terms of the holiday season with my channel. But when I move, I found the career path for me. Things that I want to kind of dip my toe in and see if I like. And there is actually a program. I'm going to be going back to school, hopefully, if I can get into this school that I'm looking at. And I really want to focus on putting myself in that new career path and maybe testing things out and seeing if I like it. And I'm really, really excited for it. I feel like, again, I'm gonna learn and be super uncomfortable, but in a good way. And it's gonna help me have like a passion and a drive for the year. When you do ground yourself, your passions and your interests come up. Rather than doing things that are trendy or things that other people are doing, you really tend to find what makes you happy and you find your passion project, which I think everyone should have. Once you start feeling that lack of inspiration, you can still live with what you've already made for yourself, but at the same time try something new and create a side hustle or a side hobby to kind of just give you that spark of inspiration, but at the same time still tending to that thing that you've already created, i.e. my YouTube channel and the new job. Number 3 is to test it out now because a lot of the times people with the new year, they tend to create all these new habits that they want to start doing. They start at January 1st, and by the time January 5th happens, you're putting too much of these habits into your routine that you're slacking on all of them altogether and not putting your full into every single one of them, or you find out maybe one needs tweaking or one you don't like at all and it's not fitting into your lifestyle, but then you feel shitty for stopping it because you're like, I already gave up on my New Year's resolution, and it just becomes this whole big mess. Instead, all the New Year's resolutions that you want to try out right now. That way when 2020 happens, you know which ones work for you and you're already kind of on the pathway of having those habits into your life, so it'll be easier to maintain once the new year starts. For example, I started doing this new upload schedule. I'm gonna see if I like it in November. If I do, if it works for me, I will keep it up for 2020 and it'll be easier to maintain. If it doesn't work and I need to tweak it a little bit, I will tweak it a little bit. If it doesn't work at all, I won't do it for 2020. The fourth habit is to own your shit, for lack of better word. not really, because I really like that word. This year has been a year of reflection for me. I completely studied myself mentally and physically. I've been in the gym more than I ever have in my life. I've pushed my body to a good limit in terms of diet and fitness, but I've also really studied my mental health. I found out why I have certain anxieties, where they stem from. I went into therapy, and I just really feel like I understand myself on a very deep level now, and I understand why I am the way I am, or why I do things the way I do things. And something that I've learned last year was that the way that we react to certain situations in our life is the only thing that we can control. We can't control other people, we can't control situations, we can control the way we react to those situations. It kind of became like an aha moment for me last year, and with therapy now, what I've learned is why I react a certain way to certain situations, and to not use that as a blame for my past or the way I was raised or society, but to use it to make myself a better person. I think a lot of the times people learn why they are the way that they are. You might have had like a really bad childhood, you might have had traumatizing experiences, but very few people use those as a way to change themselves. A lot of people, when they find out those things, they're like, oh, that's why I am that way. And then they use that as an excuse and a blame for their behavior. And I don't think that's right at all. So not only have I learned to own my reactions, but now I've learned to understand why I react that way and how I can become a better person. And I own my shit now. And when you think like that, it's honestly the biggest relief. You feel a weight lifted off your shoulder. You no longer hold on to things that you've been holding on to and using it as a crutch for behaving a certain way or reacting a certain way. And once you understand how you are the way you are, it's like so freeing. It's so freeing. And the fifth and final habit to create, to end the year with some yearly reflection questions, which I have written down here on my handy dandy notebook. The first question is, where am I balanced or unbalanced in my life? If you guys feel comfortable, please write your answers in the comments section below to inspire one another. But if you're not, journal it out to yourself, whatever you feel. I'm gonna share my answers with you guys. Unbalanced in my life would have to be the inspiration thing that I just mentioned, and I've done something about it. I don't want to get too in depth with it, but I've kind of been lacking inspiration in my environment, so making a move and maybe finding another passion project or a hobby for me to work on will give me a lot of drive and passion. And things that are balanced in my life are my mental health, my health in general, like my physical body, my career, my YouTube channel. I feel like I'm back on track to the core of why I started this channel, and I'm getting like more grounded in being me. So the second one is, what current passions are worth pursuing? So I kind of reflected on this last week or 2 weeks ago, and I tweeted this out, but I've kind of just like summed up my hobbies or my interests in 2 main words, and those are media and psychology. So last few years I've been really into like spirituality and the law of attraction, and I'm still really into that stuff, but they aren't as appealing to me now as learning about mental health and our minds and our brains and the way that we work, emotions and feelings. So I think a lot of the books that I'm going to be reading next year are going to be a lot about like psychology in general, because it's really, really freaking interesting to me. And then media would be like movies, TV, like social media. I just love anything in the media field. So the third question is, if this year were a movie, what happened? I wrote this down. I started the year going full-time with YouTube, which has been my dream for so long, and to watch something that you've really struggled with trying to build actually flourish and happen is so exciting. You get really proud of yourself. A lot of my family members have been telling me verbally like how proud they are of me, which makes me feel so good. I've made good money this year, and I've just really been really proud of myself. So that's like the beginning of the book of Renee 2019. Then we traveled a lot. I traveled a lot. I saw Billie Eilish in Atlanta. I went to New Jersey and New York with my friend Lindsay. I went to San Antonio and Bahamas with Noah, and it was just like a lot of traveling. So that was really fun. And then Noah ended up leaving at the same time my dad got cancer. So that has been a huge learning thing. I felt very independent when Noah left, and I was like really learned how to like be on my own. And then dealing with my dad was really hard. I've never been really touched by cancer with an immediate family member like that, so I learned a lot in that sense. It was really sad. I didn't like it, but it was definitely something that I've grown from, and it's part of my book. Towards the end of the year, I don't know what's happening. I feel like it's like the prep before a big thing, because I feel like 2020 is gonna be really big for me, and I can explain a little bit more in January. But I'm feeling it. You can do this in terms of like a 10-year mark now that we're going into like a whole new decade. The past 10 years, I kind of did that too. My chapter book. 2011 was like the end of high school, like just being more an adult, if you will. 2012 was like my year. To this date has been my favorite year ever. I met Noah, I went to school, I moved out of my town, I learned a lot about myself, and I made a ton of new friends, and it was just a whole new world, and it was just really fun for me. 2013 to 2016 was basically college and studying and graduating. 2017 was moving back home, quitting a job that I had for a really long time, and kind of just starting the whole YouTube journey. And then 2018 was YouTube struggles. 2018 was so annoying to me because I was like, I was able to do what I wanted to do, but I couldn't do it full time. And it was like very hard for me to like go work and not put my full potential into what I really wanted to do, which was YouTube. And it was like really hard for me because I felt like I worked so hard and it wasn't like showing and all this stuff. So that was like a struggle to like hold on to something and really work hard but not see any gain or benefit from it. And then 2019, this year, was YouTube full time and kind of just getting the grasp on that and like seeing my dreams actually flourish. So that was really cool. Okay. Question number 4, my greatest accomplishment so far. I wrote down my health because I feel balanced in my health, mentally, physically, which I've just talked about a little bit. My career, what I've built, I built my goal literally. So that's really cool and exciting and something I'm very proud of. And then my education, I feel like I went to college. I still have that passion to learn certain things. I love reading. I'm constantly trying to improve myself, and that is really helpful to me in terms of being like the best me, and I'm really proud of that. So health, career, and education. And then the 5th question is focus points that you have for the new year. So my focus points are going to be school, job, move. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this. Knock 2019 out of the park. You guys have 2 months left. End it right, end it strong, and I will see you guys flourish in 2020. We will flourish in 2020. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys all in a future video.